The fourth and final flow metric is this concept of work item age, which is really just from when we started the work, the total elapsed time until right now. So that means this work item is not finished. It's still considered part of our total work in progress. And how long have we been working on it? So when we think about work item age, it's exactly what Rita's describing here. Once we know our cycle time and we can use that cycle time to have a clear expectation around how long work takes to move through our individual systems, then we can answer the question, how old is too old? And as soon as we know how old is too old, then we can look at how long has something been in progress in our system so that we can take action on it. I think one of the things I hear the most working with teams is that they often feel like they don't have any control over hitting their dates. These dates get set. Even if we're using Monte Carlo simulations, we might forecast an expected delivery date, but then day to day, we don't feel like we have control over hitting it. Well, this is the key to taking control over hitting your dates. So using that cycle time data to understand how long work typically takes to move through your system, and then using work item age to say, uh-oh, we have a problem. Something in our work or in our workflow is aging past an unreasonable amount of time. So Julia, let's look at how we might be able to find that information inside of tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this sort of goes along with the question we have in a way about how do I convince my team to prioritize work with the help of flow metrics. And granted, this is about work already started, but a lot of times, whether we like it or not, we've got more going on than we should have in our process. And we have to make choices about where we spend our time each day. So this rainbow chart here is one thing that our development team uses this in their stand-ups. And the x-axis, the horizontal axis, is like your board. It's these stages of how work moves through your process. So we visualize the process. All those in progress stages have all the colors. And then we have the done to let you know that when things finish, they're no longer in progress. They graduate to having a cycle time, right? You can either have a work item age or a cycle time, because by definition, they're measures of two different types of work items. Work item age is for in progress stuff, and cycle time is for finished stuff, right? Okay, so Colleen already sort of set the stage for this. I want to see here how old each work item is that we have in our process. Now, this is actually a pretty good chart. I'm hoping Rita has some less good visualizations, but sometimes you'll have really old things in the very first stage of your process and really young things in the last ones. And so you can have lots of stuff in red or in the orange. And the first thing this helps you do is understand how long it's been since you started a piece of work. That's historically very difficult to see in any tool set out there, right? And you just don't know. You forget how long it's been going on. You're like, oh my gosh, has it been 2 weeks already since we started this piece of work, right? And so if something is older than you think it should be, or sitting in a particular column longer than it should be, then these are signals for you all to work. To maybe prioritize them and work on them. Now, how old is too old, right? We don't really know that answer right away. When should we react to the age of a work item? Because we won't want to overreact to normal variation, right? Well, that's where these percentile lines sort of come in. And this is the context that we bring from our past cycle time. So remember when we talked about cycle times, I'll say 85% of the work finished in 16 days or less, or 95% finished in 23 days or less. So we can use that historical expectation, the historical realities, to sort of guide us to either maintain that level of predictability or to improve it. Usually you don't want to worsen it, but that's an option as well. That will generally happen if you just don't pay attention to age. So if I am looking at, okay, 85% of items, we need to keep finishing those in 16 days or less. That doesn't mean we need to freak out every time something gets to 16 days old. What it does mean is that if we want to keep that predictability, we need to try to continue finishing about that same percentage of items in 16 days or less. 15% or so can take longer. That's okay, because not everything is the same, and we don't need to try to make it all the same. It's not realistic. But we want to continue that. Now, also, if say you're in a Scrum team and you're doing 2-week sprints, 16 days is already longer than 2 weeks, right? So if you want to have an 85% chance of something finishing in a sprint, you probably want to try to get that number down, not just to 14 days, which means if you've started on day 1 of your sprint, there's a good chance you'll finish it by the end, but maybe to even half your sprint, so that there's a good chance that if you start something halfway through your sprint, you'll have a good chance of finishing it by the end. So what you can do is you can manage work while it's in progress to improve the predictability of your team or your data. The only time that you can't fix cycle times, they're the history, they're past. They can't ever move. The only way that you can control cycle time is to control the final age of an item, which becomes its cycle time. So yeah, if people, age is not the only thing that you need to consider. There's obviously more things, but from a predictability and a using data for forecasting standpoint, age is the most important thing that you can use to improve your process, improve your predictability. And one cool thing too is that when I learned Kanban, feels like ages ago, everything was about WIP limits. But I could sit here and stick to my WIP limits and still have stuff aging uncontrollably because I just don't start more. I just have one stuck there. And then I say I have a WIP of 3. I've got one stuck and I just keep pushing 2 through. I'm still at my 3 WIP limit. No flags are blaring, right? But when that third thing finally finishes, it's going to spike my cycle time. So that's not a great situation. But if I pay attention to work item age first, then that will drive me to do things like limit my work in progress and other kinds of things that can improve. So the work item age chart and work item age in general, for me, is the absolute best thing you can do. If you only do one thing, please do this. Yeah. So how do you apply? Oh, yeah, I forgot about this too. This is something that we're adding in. So that what you just saw was the age of the items today on your board. But what we're going to be doing more and more is to show you your age as sort of a risk factor. So if I were to add up all the ages of the items on my board right now, you know, how many days worth of risk do we have? Because if you look at something like a work in progress is like a liability. You've put in time and money and you haven't gotten any value back. So from a business perspective, I want to limit my liability. I want to be turning those things over fast so I can start getting outcomes. We all agree on that. So if I look at the total age as an indicator of risk, then I want to keep that number lower. So here, if I see total age spiking, that could be a problem for me. Maybe not. I have to look at my context. Maybe there's a reason why. But, you know, in all other situations, probably not a good thing. So we're going to start looking at average age and total age more as those risk indicators for health. So Rita, how do you apply WIP age?
Yeah, so if it keeps aging, you can't flow, as the picture indicates. This was a game changer when it came in the community, like aging items. When I first heard, I was like, wow, what is this? And exactly that, as you mentioned, you know, reminding and talking with team about this on a daily basis is quite important. It's great once you get into a flow and everything is moving within 2-3 days, it's within your 85 percentile. That's great. You forget about it. But then as soon as you see that one cycle time that went a bit too high, you're like, oh, right, we didn't really look at our aging items on more regular basis. If you have stand-ups, if you have dailies, you know, you meet on a daily basis, instead of covering every single column, every single ticket, you look at this and you're like, right, okay, what is with this item that it's been there for 12 days? What can we do? What can we do as a team? Again, no blaming. It's not the person probably on the ticket that is struggling. There might be so many things why the item is not moving. But as soon as you can concentrate on what's not moving, you reduce the risk of not meeting your 85 percentile. You can keep your predictability. The most important, you learn a lot. Like, how did that slip? Was the ticket too big? And this is where interesting conversations start to happen. Exactly, like, Should we split the ticket? Can you split the ticket once it's in progress? Yes, you can. It's up to you how you're going to manage your workflow. If the ticket seems too big and the scope is too wide, narrow it while it's in progress. You're going to put that other ticket right behind. When you're ready, you can pick that up and work on it. And the beautiful thing about actionable agile, I think there was questions about, oh, what about if, we kind of think that things are starting in backlog or whatever. You can always just select and filter out in actionable agile. I want to see just from this column to this column, because that's actually when we start things, and this is actually when we finish things. Because like I did include here, it was introduced parked column, and that is like sort of moving backwards, and everyone's like, oh, can you move the ticket backwards? It's like, well, it's a third party. We're not going to come to this for 3 months, but it would be really good to see for us that it's something on there. But like you're not actually counting from that point. We want to count from in progress to done, for example. So yeah, reflecting together as often as possible, because this is still leading measure. This will going to help you. It's not in the past. It didn't happen yet. So you can still make something out of it. You can learn, and those continuous improvement, that mindset comes in really, really in play, because you can still do something about it today. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You don't have to wait till retro. You don't have to wait till 2 months in the future.